Across the galaxy, the Council of Advanced Civilizations sat in a gleaming chamber that floated among the stars. Each member of the council was proud, almost unbearably so. They measured themselves by their intelligence, power, and technology. Planets were judged not by their beauty or life, but by how advanced they were. And Earth, a small blue planet tucked quietly in a tiny spiral arm of the galaxy, was a universal joke. "They are still primitive," said Xyrath, their translucent skin shimmering like liquid crystal. "They walk on solid ground. They breathe the wrong atmosphere. Their technology is laughable." Krell, whose many eyes spun independently, laughed until the chamber trembled. "Teleportation? Starfolding? Nothing. They are nothing but ants." Laughter echoed like a wave bouncing off the crystalline walls. No one believed Earth could ever pose a threat. It was small, quiet, and insignificant. Its only claim to fame was that it still hosted life. And that, in the eyes of the Council, made it pathetic. Meanwhile, Earth spun on unaware. Humans went about their ordinary lives. Children played in parks, workers carried on in bustling cities, lovers held hands under streetlights. The planet hummed with life, noisy yet fragile, chaotic yet beautiful, the kind of ordinary magic the galaxy could not understand. A sleek silver scout vessel detached from the Council's fleet, silently gliding toward Earth. Its mission was simple: observe, record, and confirm the obvious. Earth was laughably weak. "Prepare for mockery," Xyrath said, voice ringing through the comms. "I want a full report on their stupidity." The crew, each more advanced than the last, prepared their instruments. None of them doubted what they would see. This planet was nothing, ridiculous, a playground of primitive life. As the vessel entered Earth's orbit, the crew began scanning the surface. They saw chaos immediately: storms, wildfires, floods, diseases. Signs of a fragile world. Their sensors recorded every flaw, every weakness. And yet, something caught the first observer's attention. A small group of humans caught in a rising flood was struggling, yet working together. One adult held a tiny child above the water, while another reached from the ruins of a collapsing building to pull a stranger to safety. Another human ran through falling debris to save someone trapped inside. The aliens stared, confused. "They actually help each other?" whispered one. "They care for each other?" Xyrath scoffed, trying to hide a shiver that ran through their translucent body. Emotion, bonding, weakness. Still, the doubt had been planted. The scout vessel moved on, orbiting silently. Humans rebuilt after storms, comforted each other after tragedy, argued but reconciled. They fell and rose again, over and over, unbroken. The crew documented everything, still certain the planet's inadequacy would amuse them. But the more they observed, the harder it became to hold back unease. In the cities, humans stared at the night sky. Their eyes were wide, full of wonder, full of hope. Children pointed at stars that the aliens themselves had mapped hundreds of years ago. Humans dreamed of the impossible, built ideas that were bigger than themselves, and never gave up. Xyrath's voice cracked slightly. "Perhaps we underestimated them." The laughter that had filled the council chamber now felt hollow. The humans below were fragile, yes, but they were unpredictable, determined, brave beyond measure, and in ways the aliens did not understand. Terrifying. "Observe further," Krell said quietly, a rare seriousness in their tone. "They may be small, but they are not ordinary." The scout vessel continued its silent watch. Humans worked together, fought for survival, and held on to hope, even when everything seemed lost. They were flawed, messy, emotional, and yet unstoppable. The alien crew had come to mock, to confirm superiority. But for the first time, doubt crept in. They wondered if these creatures, tiny, fragile humans, might actually survive in ways the galaxy had never imagined, might even triumph. And deep, deep inside, something unexpected stirred: fear. Not of weapons or technology, but of humans themselves, their spirit, their courage, their relentless, impossible drive to live and to fight and to hope. Xyrath's voice, trembling slightly, said something no alien in the council had ever said aloud before. Could it be, "We are the foolish ones"? And so what began as a mission to ridicule became the first crack in the council's arrogance. Somewhere in the heart of the scout vessel, as the humans below gazed up at the stars with wonder, the galaxy itself began to tremble, unaware of the small creatures who would one day shake it to its core. The council had decided Earth would be studied more closely but not just observed. They would test the humans. A demonstration of strength, a small show of power, enough to remind them of their place in the galaxy. Xerath's fleet hovered silently above the atmosphere. Massive gleaming ships blocked the sunlight over the Pacific Ocean. Waves crashed against the shore, creating an eerie reflection of alien metal on the water's surface. On Earth, satellites went dark. Communication grids flickered. Panic rose, but so did determination. "Prepare the warnings," Xerath ordered. "Let them see us. Let them understand how small they are." The humans below looked up. Across cities, oceans, and plains, billions stared at the silver shapes in the sky. Governments scrambled jets, armies mobilized, but weapons were useless against the alien fleet. Fear gripped the planet, but fear was only the first emotion. From New York to Tokyo, from deserts to jungles, humans acted. People ran to help each other. Soldiers abandoned protocol to save civilians. Ordinary citizens led the blind, the sick, and the children to safety. Their instinct was not to hide. They ran into danger to protect each other. Xerath watched through the fleet's sensors. "They flee," they said, voice laced with superiority. "Pathetic. They cannot fight us. They are weak." Yet humans did not just flee. A team of rescue workers in a flood-ravaged city refused to evacuate until every person, every animal, every piece of life was safe. Civilians constructed barriers with sandbags, boats, and even furniture. In a small town in India, villagers coordinated their efforts with only hands and voices moving together as one. The aliens observed this behavior with growing confusion. Humans were fragile, yes. They were powerless against the ships above. But they did not panic. They did not collapse under fear. They adapted. They worked together. Then came the first test. The fleet released a pulse into the atmosphere, a shockwave meant to terrify, to demonstrate absolute power. Buildings shook. Trees fell. Waves surged. Yet humans reacted with unity. Strangers lifted others from the rubble. Neighbors held each other as they ran. Firefighters waded through collapsing streets, guiding lost children to safety. Xerath could not understand. "They endure," they whispered. "Even when their world shakes, they do not break." "This is unexpected," Krell's many eyes widened. "They are unpredictable. Dangerous in a sense I cannot define." From orbit, the aliens could see something else. Humans were not only surviving, they were helping, comforting, and organizing. People use technology not for destruction but to save lives. Humanity's intelligence was messy, chaotic, but brilliant in its own way. And then something happened that shook the crew even more. In a war-torn region, a young human soldier, barely out of his teens, ran directly into the shockwave's path. He carried a girl no more than 10 in his arms. Alien sensors recorded his heartbeat racing faster than any known life form. His fear was obvious, but he pressed on, refusing to let panic dictate his actions. Other humans followed his lead, forming a protective chain for those who could not protect themselves. Xerath turned to the rest of the fleet. "Observe, notice. What is this courage? This defiance? They have no weapons to match us, yet they act as if nothing can stop them." For hours, the fleet tested humanity. Storms of energy, illusions of destruction, simulated disasters. Each time humans adapted, each time they saved lives, each time they endured, and each time the alien crew recorded data, yet found no answer to the mystery of human strength. By nightfall, Earth was battered, but not broken. Entire regions were scarred, yet humans were alive. Families huddled together, comforting each other. Cities began rebuilding almost immediately. People sang songs to keep hope alive, told stories of courage to inspire others, and even in exhaustion they laughed and cried together. Zirath, once confident in humanity's inferiority, sat in silence. The fear that had begun in orbit now expanded in their mind. How can they endure so much? They are fragile. They should have collapsed. Krell's voice was barely audible. Perhaps this is what we never understood. Humans are small, yes, but their spirit, it is enormous, it is unbreakable. The fleet withdrew slightly astonished, unable to comprehend the truth. They had come to demonstrate power, and instead they had witnessed something greater than technology, greater than dominance. They had seen the true strength of humans, courage, unity, and the will to survive against impossible odds. Somewhere deep within Zirath's consciousness, a thought began to form. It was terrifying. It was exciting. It was impossible. We have underestimated them. The first test was over. Humans had survived, and in doing so they had begun to teach the galaxy a lesson that no weapon could ever convey. Earth had survived the first test. From orbit, the alien fleet watched as humanity continued to move, rebuild, and care for one another. Cities were scarred, forests uprooted, and rivers churned with debris. But the people below refused to bow to fear. They did not just endure. They fought to preserve life. Zirath paced the bridge of their vessel, their translucent form flickering with tension. It is impossible. These creatures should have collapsed. Yet they rise again. They do not submit. They do not run. Their voice faltered. They fight even when they have no chance. Krell's many eyes scanned Earth's surface. Observe the humans in the northern territories. Entire towns were swept by a simulated tsunami we projected, yet they formed chains, hands linked, rescuing the injured, pulling strangers to safety. One child led a group of the elderly across the floodwaters, singing to keep them calm. It is inspiring. The Council's fleet had expected laughter, mockery, a report of failure. Instead, they recorded courage, resilience, and unity on a scale they had never encountered. The more humans resisted, the more unnerving it became for the aliens. Then came the second test, an escalation. The fleet unleashed energy pulses over industrial cities, cutting power grids, disabling vehicles, and creating chaos. Their aim was clear: to test organization, intelligence, and obedience under pressure. On the ground, humans reacted immediately. People ran to rescue workers trapped in collapsed buildings. Engineers devised temporary systems to restore electricity, using whatever resources they could find. Doctors worked tirelessly, setting up impromptu triage stations in streets, hospitals, and schools. Children helped each other find food and water. Elderly neighbors guided those younger who panicked. Everywhere, humanity's unpredictable determination shone. Humans fought not against each other but for each other. Where the aliens had expected fear, they found courage. Where they had expected confusion, they found organization and leadership. Zirath's hands trembled over the control panel. They are cohesive. Even in chaos, they maintain unity. This defies all logic. One human leader, a woman in her 30s named Maria, stood on a rooftop overlooking the chaos of her city. Her voice carried through a megaphone as she coordinated rescue teams. Help the children! Help the elderly! Don't wait for orders, act! Save lives! Aliens studied her with fascination. She had no weapons, no shields, no spacecraft. Yet her presence radiated authority. Humans obeyed her not out of fear, but out of trust and admiration. Zirath could feel an alien equivalent of disbelief rising. The next hours were a blur of human perseverance. Teams of volunteers moved as one, improvising solutions in ways no alien algorithm could predict. Humans adapted, humans learned, humans sacrificed themselves for strangers. A firefighter dove into a collapsing building to pull a trapped worker free. A mother carried her child across rubble while helping a neighbor with a broken leg. Every act of bravery rippled across the planet, weaving a network of resilience that no alien weapon could break. Krell finally spoke, their many eyes reflecting Earth's turmoil. We came to demonstrate power, to remind them of their weakness. And yet every attempt to intimidate them only reveals more of their strength. What kind of species is this? They are small, fragile, yet fearless. They are unbreakable. Xyrath felt a shiver in their core circuitry, the closest alien equivalent to fear. Perhaps we misjudged everything. Perhaps their so-called weakness is their greatest strength. By the end of the day, the aliens had observed enough to realize something terrifyingly true. Humanity could survive anything. Physical force, natural disasters, and terror could not bend them. The humans' unpredictability, their unity, their courage, and their hope created a force stronger than any technology the aliens possessed. The fleet began to withdraw, not out of defeat but out of awe and uncertainty. The aliens had thought themselves masters of the universe. They had thought themselves untouchable, and yet below them a small blue planet defied every expectation, led by creatures who were fragile, emotional, and imperfect but unstoppable. As night fell, Earth's cities flickered with tiny lights, lamps, fires, candles. Humans sang songs of hope, comforted the frightened, and told stories of courage. Their eyes were bright, staring at the stars above, dreaming of futures that no alien could control. Xyrath, once confident and mocking, whispered, almost to themselves, "We came to test them, to humiliate them, and yet we have learned. They are not to be underestimated. They are remarkable." Krell nodded. Remarkable, terrifying, and perhaps the future of the galaxy will not belong to us but to them. The aliens had expected chaos and obedience. What they had found was courage, unity, and defiance, the true heart of humanity. And somewhere deep within the crew, a quiet realization took hold. These fragile, ordinary creatures might just change the galaxy forever. The alien fleet had returned to orbit the planet. Curious, cautious, and increasingly unsettled, they had watched humanity survive disasters, organize amidst chaos, and show courage that defied logic. Yet the Council was not satisfied. They wanted to see the humans fight. "Prepare for escalation," Xyrath commanded. "Let them feel our strength. We must confirm their limits." Above Earth, massive energy beams lit the skies. They were meant to intimidate, to show the full power of the Council. Cities shook under invisible forces. Skies darkened, and storms raged without reason. This was the moment the aliens had anticipated: human panic, chaos, and submission. But humans did not panic. Across continents, people moved with purpose. Families fled danger together. Neighbors helped neighbors, and communities created shelters from the wreckage. They did not merely survive. They resisted, acted, and even fought in the only ways available to them. They were weak in terms of technology, but they were strong in courage, unity, and determination. In a small European town, a young man named Lucas coordinated local defenses. With only scraps of machinery and old vehicles, he built barricades, improvised alarms, and guided people to safety. "Do not panic. Stay together. Help each other," he shouted, and the townspeople obeyed, not because of fear, but because of trust in one another. Across the Atlantic, in a flood-stricken coastal city, humans rowed boats through submerged streets, rescuing the trapped and elderly. Children learned quickly which streets were safe, and strangers shared food, blankets, and hope. Every small act was a rebellion against despair, a declaration that humans would not yield to force. The aliens observed, astonished. Xyrath's voice trembled. They fight without weapons, without dominance, yet they resist everything we throw at them." Krell's eyes swiveled rapidly. "They are unpredictable. Their defiance is emotional, irrational, and yet effective." And it was true. Every attempt to intimidate humanity only united them further. Humans did not rely on technology to overcome. They relied on their hearts, their minds, and their spirit. Every person became part of a larger organism, moving together with empathy, courage, and hope. Then came a moment that left the aliens silent. In a remote village under attack from an artificial storm projected by the aliens, an elderly man carried his neighbor's baby across debris-strewn streets. A young woman lifted a fallen stranger from a collapsed wall. Children handed food and water to those who could not reach it themselves. They were unarmed, fragile, ordinary humans, yet together they were unstoppable. Xyrath could not understand. They have no weapons, no defenses, and yet their will is stronger than anything we can project. Krell leaned forward, voice hushed. It is not power that makes them dangerous. It is their spirit, their unity, their refusal to yield, even when every logical choice would be to surrender. The fleet had come to assert dominance. Instead, they watched humanity rewrite the rules of survival. Humans fought not with lasers or plasma beams, but with compassion, courage, and ingenuity. Every small act of defiance, every shared burden, every rescue became a strike against the aliens' arrogance. By nightfall, the skies cleared. Humans had survived yet another attempt at intimidation. Cities were battered, towns scarred, and countless lives endangered, but the people had endured. They sang songs, whispered prayers, and shared stories around fires and lights. Hope, not fear, illuminated their faces. Xyrath stared at the planet below, their mind racing. We have underestimated them. Their fragility is deceptive. Their survival instincts, extraordinary. And their courage, unimaginable. Krell's many eyes reflected the flickering lights of human settlements. They are small, imperfect, emotional, fragile, and yet they are unstoppable. We may have thought ourselves invincible, but they are something else entirely. For the first time, the Council fleet felt doubt. They had come to test, to intimidate, and to assert power. Instead, they had witnessed the extraordinary. Humans had no advantage in technology, weapons, or speed, but they had something the aliens had never fully understood. An unbreakable spirit, a relentless will to protect each other, and a hope that could not be extinguished by force. Xyrath's voice, trembling yet reverent, whispered across the bridge, "Perhaps the galaxy has been blind. Perhaps we were never the masters we believed ourselves to be." As humans below lit lamps, fires, and candles in the darkness, they looked up at the stars with wonder, with hope, and with the courage to face the impossible. The aliens had come to conquer, but what they witnessed instead was defiance, unity, and the indomitable will of humanity. And somewhere, deep within the Council fleet, a quiet, unspoken truth emerged. These fragile, ordinary humans might not only survive the tests, they might one day change the fate of the galaxy itself. The aliens had underestimated humanity. That much had become painfully clear. Each new attempt to intimidate Earth had failed, not because humans were stronger, faster, or smarter, but because they were united, courageous, and relentless. Every test only made them stronger, more determined, and more inspiring. Xyrath hovered in their command chamber, watching Earth's surface in stunned silence. Cities were still scarred from energy pulses and artificial storms, but life moved forward. Humans rebuilt broken homes while rescuing those still trapped. Children played amidst chaos, their laughter echoing through streets littered with debris. Their resilience was impossible to ignore. They are unbreakable, Xyrath admitted almost aloud, their usual arrogance shattered. Even when every logical prediction says they should fail, they endure. They fight in ways we cannot predict. Their strength is not physical. It is something else. Krell's many eyes reflected Earth's flickering lights. Their spirit, their unity, their courage, it is extraordinary and terrifying. The Council fleet decided on a final test, a decisive move meant to demonstrate absolute superiority. Massive energy cannons charged above major cities, threatening annihilation on a scale the humans could not possibly survive. The aliens assumed panic and surrender would follow. Instead, humanity reacted the only way it knew how. Together. From Africa to North America, from Europe to Asia, humans sprang into action. Communities formed chains of aid, rescuing the injured and shielding the vulnerable. Volunteers coordinated supply lines with whatever technology remained. Doctors, teachers, and ordinary citizens worked tirelessly, guiding each other, offering comfort and refusing to give in to fear. In the ruins of a shattered city, a young girl named Amina led a group of children to safety, her small hand gripping a compass she had salvaged from a ruined building. Her voice was clear and commanding. "Follow me. Don't stop. We can do this together." Across the ocean, engineers and scientists collaborated, building emergency generators and repairing water systems using scraps of metal and wire. Every invention, no matter how simple, became a weapon against despair. Humans refused to be victims. They became a force the aliens had never anticipated. Zyrath's hands shook as they watched. "We thought this would break them," they whispered. "Instead, it strengthens them." Krell's many eyes focused on the same images. They are small, fragile, imperfect, yet their will is stronger than any weapon we possess. We may control the stars, but they control themselves, their courage, their unity. Then came the moment that would shift the balance forever. In one of the most devastated cities, a group of ordinary humans armed with nothing more than courage and makeshift tools confronted a collapse caused by the aliens' energy pulses. They worked together to stabilize buildings, rescue trapped people, and create paths to safety. One man carried a stranger on his back while navigating falling debris. Another woman, injured herself, refused to stop guiding children to shelter. The alien sensors recorded every action. Every rescue, every act of selflessness, every display of bravery registered as anomalous data they could not explain. Humanity's strength did not come from machines or weapons. It came from the heart. Zyrath finally said aloud what none in the council had dared to admit. "These creatures, they are not ordinary. They are extraordinary. Their power lies in their spirit, their unity, their courage. We underestimated them entirely." Krell's voice was soft, almost reverent. "They survive not because we failed to destroy them, but because they refuse to be destroyed. They do not yield. They do not despair. They do not break. That is power." The fleet, once confident in its dominance, began to retreat, not in fear of human weapons, but in awe of their resilience. Every attempt to demonstrate superiority had failed. Every strike had revealed humanity's true strength. The humans below were ordinary in appearance, fragile by design, and yet unstoppable in spirit. Earth was battered, scarred, and exhausted, but alive. And humanity had shown that it would not only survive, it would rise stronger than before. Their courage, ingenuity, and unity had created a force no alien calculation could predict. Zyrath looked at the planet one last time before issuing the retreat. "We came to dominate, to show our strength, and yet we have witnessed something far greater. Humans are not to be underestimated. They are remarkable, and perhaps one day, they will teach the galaxy a lesson we cannot even imagine." As the fleet disappeared into the stars, humans lit fires, rebuilt homes, and whispered prayers of hope. They held each other close, shared stories of bravery, and smiled amidst the rubble. Fear had visited them, destruction had touched them, yet they remained unbroken. And in that unbroken defiance, Zyrath and the Council realized something terrifying. Humanity was not just surviving. Humanity was growing, and the galaxy would never look at them the same way again. The alien fleet had retreated, but their eyes remained on Earth. The planet was battered, its cities scarred, yet life moved forward. Humans did not collapse under fear. They did not succumb to despair. They rebuilt, comforted one another, and looked to the stars with hope in their eyes. Every act, no matter how small, carried courage that the aliens could not comprehend. Zyrath floated silently in their command chamber, watching the humans below. "They are resilient," they whispered, almost to themselves. "Every disaster, every threat, and they rise. Every failure they endure only makes them stronger. They are extraordinary." Krell's many eyes tracked humans working together. "They are not just surviving. They are inspiring each other, lifting each other, giving hope when there is none. This is a force the galaxy has never seen. On Earth, the people were not waiting for orders or leaders from above. Leadership came from necessity, courage, and heart. In South America, villagers rebuilt homes that had collapsed under storms. They worked side by side, sharing tools, food, and encouragement. Children carried water for the elderly. Mothers protected strangers' children as their own. Every action was a thread in the fabric of survival. In a city once ravaged by alien tests, a young engineer named Ravi organized a team to restore communications. With only scraps of metal and wires, he rigged an emergency network to connect hospitals, shelters, and rescue teams. "We may not have machines like theirs," he told his team, "but we have each other. That is stronger than anything." In Africa, a group of students formed a rescue squad, carrying supplies and guiding people through dangerous streets. Their laughter mixed with tears, but they refused to stop. Their courage was not silent. It was loud, visible, and contagious. Aliens recorded every moment, analyzing and trying to understand the unquantifiable strength of humans. Every gesture of bravery, every selfless act, every small kindness was proof of something the galaxy had ignored for centuries. Humanity's power did not lie in weapons, technology, or domination. It lay in their hearts. Xyrath turned to Krell. "We came to test them, to dominate, to show superiority, and yet, what have we learned? That strength is not measured by force but by spirit. That courage is not measured by size but by will. That hope is more powerful than fear." Krell nodded slowly. "Perhaps this is what makes them so dangerous and yet so inspiring. They are fragile, emotional, and yet unstoppable. They rise from every challenge and they lift each other as they climb." And it was true. Humans had survived storms, alien weapons, and threats beyond imagination, yet they did not stop there. They reached out to one another, forming alliances, sharing resources, and helping strangers without expectation. Every hand held, every meal shared, every life saved was a defiance against fear, a triumph over despair. In the ruins of a city, a young girl named Sophia carried a small dog she had rescued from debris. Beside her, her older brother helped an elderly man to his feet. Around them, strangers laughed and cried together, rebuilding what had been lost. Their spirit was infectious, reaching far beyond the limits of Earth itself. Xyrath's voice was almost reverent. "They are more than life. They are light. Even in darkness they shine. Even in fear they rise. This is not weakness, it is strength beyond comprehension." Krell's eyes reflected Earth's lights twinkling like stars. "We cannot calculate this. We cannot dominate it. We can only observe and wonder." Humans had not only survived, they had inspired. Their courage, hope, and unity were spreading across the planet like a beacon, and somehow even the aliens felt it. For the first time, Xyrath realized that humans might not only survive the galaxy, they might change it. From orbit, the Council fleet began to retreat, not in defeat, but in understanding. They had thought themselves rulers, masters of all life. Instead, they had witnessed something extraordinary. A species small, fragile, and imperfect, yet capable of inspiring hope and courage in ways no weapon or technology could achieve. And on Earth, humans did not celebrate. They simply continued. They rebuilt homes, comforted the frightened, fed the hungry, and held each other close. They laughed, they cried, they sang songs, and they dreamed of the stars above. Their spirit had not only survived, it had shone, lighting the way for themselves, for each other, and for anyone who looked to them. Xyrath whispered, almost to themselves, "Perhaps the galaxy will learn what we have only just begun to understand. Humans are not to be underestimated," Krell added quietly. "They are extraordinary, and their light, it will not be dimmed." Somewhere, deep in the Council fleet, a new thought began to take hold. The galaxy had mocked Earth for centuries, but now it was beginning to understand that humanity's greatest weapon was not firepower. speed, or technology. It was the heart, courage, and unbreakable spirit of humans themselves. And for the first time, the aliens realized the truth. Humans were no longer just a planet. They were a force. Earth had survived. Scarred, battered, and tested beyond imagination, the planet remained alive, and so did its people. Humans looked up at the stars, their eyes bright with hope, determination, and an unshakable spirit. Every test, every disaster, every attempt to intimidate them had only strengthened their unity, courage, and resolve. The alien fleet hovered silently above, no longer confident, no longer mocking. They had witnessed something beyond calculation, beyond prediction. They had seen a species small, fragile, and emotional, yet capable of defying every expectation. Every act of humanity, from children guiding the lost to adults risking their lives for strangers, spoke louder than weapons, faster than technology, and brighter than any star. Xyrath's voice trembled, almost reverent. We came to dominate, to assert superiority, to show power, and yet, what we have witnessed is something we cannot quantify. Humans are extraordinary. Krell's many eyes reflected Earth's lights below, twinkling like 1,000 beacons of hope. They are fragile. They are imperfect. But they endure. They fight. They care. And through it all they rise. That is strength we cannot imagine. Humans had survived storms, energy pulses, simulated disasters, and the full might of alien technology. Yet even in devastation they acted not out of fear, but out of courage. They comforted each other. They lifted each other. They shared food, warmth, and hope. Every small act, every sacrifice, every heartbeat of bravery created a force the aliens could not ignore. In one small city, a young woman named Layla helped rebuild homes destroyed by the alien tests. Her hands were blistered, her clothes torn, but she smiled as she carried water to children. Nearby, her brother repaired broken communications equipment so that hospitals could coordinate care. Around them, neighbors shared food, blankets, and stories, singing songs of hope into the night. Xyrath studied these scenes, heart, if it could be called that, filled with awe. We thought ourselves masters of the universe. We thought we knew power. But this is something else. Their strength is not in weapons, not in speed, not in technology. It is their hearts. Krell's voice was soft, almost a whisper. They have taught us what we never understood. That courage is not measured by force. That leadership is not earned through fear. That hope is stronger than despair. And that unity, empathy, and love are more powerful than any weapon we have ever built. Across the planet, humans continued to act as one. Strangers guided strangers to safety. Communities rebuilt hospitals, roads, and homes. People who had lost everything still reached out to help others. Children laughed in the streets. Mothers sang lullabies to soothe frightened neighbors' babies. Every act was small, yet together they formed a force greater than any alien technology. Xyrath finally spoke aloud, trembling. We have been blind. We have judged weakness as weakness, but it is not. It is strength. Humans, they survive because they refuse to give up. They endure because they care. They fight not for glory, but for each other. That is power beyond anything we have known. Krell's many eyes softened. We came to mock, to assert superiority. And yet, we have learned. The galaxy is not ours to rule, not in the way we believed. Perhaps it belongs to the brave, the compassionate, the unstoppable. Perhaps it belongs to humans. The fleet retreated, carrying a new understanding. They had come to demonstrate dominance, yet they left humbled. They had witnessed courage, unity, and hope incarnate. They had learned a truth that would forever change the way they viewed life across the universe. Strength is not measured by weapons or dominance. It is measured by spirit. And on Earth, humans continued. They did not cheer for victory, for there was no enemy to gloat over. Instead, they simply lived, loved, rebuilt, and reached for the stars. Their laughter, courage, and hope filled the planet, spreading far beyond the scars of destruction. Zirath and Krell looked down one last time. "We have laughed at them," Zirath whispered. "But now, we see the truth. Humans are not weak. They are not insignificant. They are extraordinary, and one day the universe itself will remember them." The stars around Earth seemed brighter that night, reflecting the light of a species small in size but infinite in spirit. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the Council began to realize that humanity's legacy would endure, not because of what they could destroy, but because of what they could inspire: courage, hope, unity, and the unbreakable will to rise, no matter the odds. And so, the galaxy learned its first lesson: never underestimate humans. Because humans, fragile and imperfect though they may be, had hearts that could shine brighter than any star.